This is based off the Quorum profiling system. Quorum actually came and did some trainings here at Anna last year. My take on it was there wasn't enough about applicable for what you could do in the classroom using this system. So it's something I've used in education for 12, 15 years. It's helped me to identify students of need, and also given me some strategies for how I can help those students. And particularly, we're going to spend some time kind of closer to the end going over what are called random actor traits. Random actor traits are traits that are exhibited by all students who have committed random acts of violence, and specifically school shooters. And we're going to learn about those traits. And they're actually extremely easy to identify the younger the child. Okay, so it is actually easier to identify the traits that are in the makeup of school shooters in kindergarten than it is in high school even. Anybody have any ideas of why that might be?
They haven't learned how to hide. Sorry.
That's part of it. Mm-hmm.
You might have said they know how to hide it.
Yes. So they've learned to mask the things that they say, the things that they do even, because really as you grow up, you start realizing people look at me funny when I do that. People treat me funny when I do that. And even though you are different and you are kind of unconventional, sometimes you don't like that people view you a certain way based off of your unconventional actions or behaviors. Okay? And then we're going to talk about who and where are the targets, and things that we can actually do as administrators, counselors, and teachers, not just in response, but in preventative measures in the classroom and at school. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the profile overall. There's actually two types that we're going to be talking about today. Our communication type, on the left, we're looking at two things. Are they assertive or non-assertive? And the other part is how they are as far as how they show their emotions. Are they control people? Do they control their emotions? Or are they more expressive? And we'll learn a little bit more about that in a second. And then on the behavioral side, we're going to spend a ton more time on this, because really what we're looking at and working on is changing and helping kids with behavioral concerns. So on the behavioral side, we're going to be looking at do they have conventional and unconventional ways that they behave? And are they confident or fearful? These are going to be the two different types that we're going to kind of look at today. And we're going to spend a little bit of time moving forward looking at these. So the communication matrix, our control people who are assertive, these are kind of sergeant types. Does that make sense? They're going to let you know what they think about something, and they're usually pretty in control of their emotions. A lot of strong leaders, to me, are sergeants, because they have to keep themselves under control. And they have to be assertive enough to make a decision. I'm going to communicate differently with my sergeants in my classroom, on my tennis team, your coach, than I would some of these other profiles. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. You have your assertive types that are very expressive people. I call them salesmen. Okay, so they are able to tell you what's going on very expressively. Sometimes you're going to think they're trying to manipulate or sell you on an idea. You're going to see these types of kids in your classroom as well. Okay, and then you have your control types that are also non-assertive. For some reason, I think of accountants, if this is the case. They're under control, not showing a lot of emotion, but maybe not necessarily assertive type. And then your non-assertive but expressive, maybe your artist types. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of specifically how I've used this with. I'm just going to use it through coaching, and it's the same way in the classroom. We had a particular student on my team a couple years ago that I'm a pretty assertive person, and I square up people when I talk to them a lot because I'm assertive, and it's like, hey, here you go, I'm coach. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go out there and you're going to win, right? So I walk starts crying. And then I'm like, whoa, that didn't work. Obviously the opposite result that you would like for one of your players, right? And what I learned is she was a very non-assertive person. It was very threatening for her, for me to come up with my confidence to tell her what we're going to do. So every time I would go talk to her, I would come up and I would just stand beside her. I wouldn't even look at her. I would just kind of talk to her, okay, there's just little things that we're going to correct here. If we change this, you're going to see a big, it's going to help you a whole lot. You're going to totally come back. You can do this. I've seen you do it before. And then I would just walk away. And then she would go out and perform really well. So we want to know, and really the biggest key on the communication type is assertive versus non-assertive. If you've got a kid that's just a very non-assertive person, you're going to find that you are very assertive yourself. They are not going to connect well with you as a teacher. We have to find a way to maybe say things in a softer way, or maybe not even, you don't even need eye contact to make your point. I think a lot of times we look at it as disrespect. Look at me when I'm talking to you. For a very non-assertive person, that is terrifying. That makes sense? Okay, so we're going to learn more about that in just a second. So again, if you have not logged into this website, Socrative.com, and I know some people came in late because apparently it's hard to get around in this town, if you haven't noticed. So go ahead and log into this website, and the room name is AISD Safety. And this will allow you to kind of take this quiz as we go along and follow along with the presentation. So let's talk about communication types a little bit more. I'm actually going to give you all a chance just the knowledge I've given you. I haven't given you much yet, to see how well you can just do on this on your own. Okay? This is the first question. Some of you have already answered, but that's okay. Who is this?
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Do you think Mr. Rogers' character is more assertive or non-assertive by nature? Everybody get on and vote, and that will let me know what you think as a group. You guys are voting quickly. Don't worry, I will not know any particular person's answers. All right, let's see how y'all did. 83% said non-assertive. Can one person that said non-assertive tell me why they think this person's non-assertive? Anybody? He's approachable, maybe? Yeah. He seems like somebody that would listen, right?
He's open. His body is open.
He's open. You would feel comfortable walking up and talking to him. Okay. All right, so we're going to move forward. What do you think? Next question? It should be open to vote. Is this person, whether you like or don't like his politics, does not matter. That is not what I'm asking here. I'm asking about, is he assertive or non-assertive? Everybody go to your device, vote, let me know what you think. You guys are doing well. Most of you have already voted. Just a few more seconds. Get your votes in. Okay, this one's a little bit easier for you all. 99% of you said assertive. I mean, he even just looks assertive looking at him, right? I mean, he had a whole show where his main tagline was, "You're fired," right? That's a pretty assertive thing to say to someone, right? So part of what I want you to learn in this short little exercise right there is that this is not going to be as hard as you think it's going to be, right? Already 99% of you are able to tell that guy's assertive, right? Now, not everybody's as easy to read as Donald Trump is, but we'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's move on. Let's talk about, is this person with his emotions, is he a control type person or is he more expressive? I will open it up to vote. And let me know what you think. You guys are getting your votes in very quickly. Good. Keep going. Okay, let's talk about how we did on this one. 97% of you said express. Very good, that is correct. This one I thought would be a pretty easy one too, based off the picture that was chosen. He's wearing a silly hat, for crying out loud, right? Okay, so let's go to our next person. Let's keep it up, see how we can do. Let me know, is this a control or express person? All right, 98% of you said control. So right off the bat, we profiled 4 communication types of 4 different people, and other than one, we were in the high 90% range for our ability to profile. The one thing I want to kind of point out here is that your students that are fit the profile for someone that could be dangerous, it's almost that easy to tell if you know what you're looking for. So one thing I'm wanting you to know is that as you gain some confidence learning to do this, you're going to be able to tell who needs help. And that's the biggest key to this. I don't want to know who these kids are so they can get in trouble. I want to know who they are so we can start the process of intervening, helping them grow to feeling confident, feeling good about school, less disgruntled about school. And we're going to talk about ways you can help kids feel more comfortable in your classroom as we move forward. Okay, so this again is a communication matrix. So remember, biggest key to remember in communication with your students is if they are non-assertive, try to find a more non-assertive way to approach them. You will get a much better reaction. And if we're about performance, as a lot of us are, we want to see our students perform well, whether it's in the classroom or in whatever activity or sport that they're playing, then we are going to have to adapt ourselves to them. And I'm going to talk about why we have to be more adaptive to our students than we did 10, 15 years ago in a little bit. So, I went too far. There we go. So now we're going to talk about the behavioral matrix. Our behavioral matrix, it's been the same for years, but the percentages of people in each, I guess you could say, quadrant has changed dramatically over the last 15 years. Really 20 years ago, most students were conventional thinkers, okay? So they fell in the top 2 boxes, okay? I'm going to talk to you about those boxes. Some of the teachers I've talked to recently about some of the stuff they're doing in their classroom to meet the needs of the students have talked about how they've seen some of this shift too. And as I walk you through this, you can be thinking about students and listen to what I'm saying and think about how has it changed in the classroom. So years ago, 70% of students fell in the manager-loyalist range. Another term that I've heard used for loyalist is conformist. Our managers are confident students who are conventional. Okay? Teachers usually love these students because they're the types that you can walk up, tell them what they need to do. They're going to be confident in their abilities, and they're going to go do what you've told them to do, and they're going to do it very well. And they may even help try to manage some of the other kids at their table, right? Try to keep them in mind. My oldest daughter is a manager. Anyone's had her in their class, they are aware that she was a manager. The story Kristen McCoy told me was that in her 5th grade class, Morgan started a no cussing club. Kids were quitting cussing to join this club, right? That is a manager. She is talking people into, we don't talk like that in this club. Okay, I'm done cussing, right? Good luck parents trying to get your no cussing club started, but the manager who has the mindset of doing that, sometimes good stuff can happen. So that's your managers. Teachers love these kids. Your loyalists may be a lot of teachers' favorite students. They're fearful, but they're conventional. They're kind of fearful enough to do whatever the teacher says, and they're going to do it, and they're going to try to do as good a job as they can because they're afraid not to. But we still want them to feel a little bit less fearful, maybe, and we can grow and work on that some, and we'll talk about that some. But they're generally really good students because they're very compliant students, and they do basically what they're told. So that was 70% of the students 20 years ago. Now, it's the opposite. We have 70% of students that fall in the bottom range. This is why it's more difficult to educate. And we're going to talk about why. They present some challenges that conventional thinkers and conventional students do not present. So our confident, unconventional types, they're confident in their ability, they're a little bit different, and they kind of like to push the envelope. A lot of the innovator girls that I've seen are always just out of dress code. You know what I mean? And they're always kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. They think that dress code's ridiculous, or they don't even think the dress code's that ridiculous. They just like to test it because, by God, you're going to tell me how to dress. I'm going to make your life just a little bit harder. You're going to have to deal with it, right? These are your boys that may sneak a smoke on the side of the school in high school, right? The one thing about it is these kids often get confused as dangerous. A lot of times, they're not at all dangerous. They're just rebels. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm an innovator. I did a few rebellious things growing up. I like to push the envelope. When there was a rule that I thought was ridiculous, I would say something about it. If there's things that I don't like now, even as an adult, I have this problem. I can't keep my mouth shut. I have to tell people because, by God, I want to see some things change, and I'm going to be the one to say it. So that can get me in trouble in school. There were a lot of kids, a lot of teachers that wanted to yank me up by the neck and strangle me, I'm sure, at some point. But the crazy thing, they all kind of loved me a little bit, and I knew it, but they all wanted to strangle me at the same time. We had this love-hate bond going on. So those are your innovators. You're seeing more and more. The cool thing is they are doing some really cool stuff in the classroom. They are coming up with ideas. This is the fun part about teaching, when you're seeing all these innovative ideas come up. And if we can help foster those and grow those, it's even better. Okay, your other two groups, and they're really subgroups because they're both fearful and they're both unconventional or kind of different. But some of them aren't that fearful. They're just a little bit cautious. We call them cautious innovators. And your cautious innovators aren't going to trust easy. They're not going to trust the adults in their life very easily. And they're not necessarily dangerous either, but they're very careful and cautious about what they will tell someone, trusting the adults in their life. And they take a little bit longer making decisions. I kind of like cautious innovators because, for me, the reason why I work well with them is when I come up with all my crazy ideas, they're the ones that are going to pick them apart, come up with, okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this, Vince? Let's slow down a little bit. Maybe let's think about it from this perspective. And sometimes that's really good for me. I need that. So when we're talking about grouping in a little bit, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. And then you have your random actors. These are extreme fearful students. These are students that a lot of times they say a lot of the same things. Everybody at school hates me. None of the teachers like me. No one cares. These are students that are high fearful. Now, does it mean they're dangerous and volatile? No. In fact, 95% of random actors would never act on their fearful, angry feelings. But it's the 5% that do that can be disastrous to a school district or to a community. So we're going to talk a lot about those random actors, how we can set our classrooms up that will help them to feel less disgruntled about this place. Because the facts are, the 2018 graduates of high schools in the United States lived through 200 school shootings in their lifetimes. So in 18 years, from 2000 to 2018, there were 200 school shooting events. Now, some of them were very dramatic events, like Santa Fe and Sandy Hook and some of the ones that were more publicized by the media. And others were smaller incidents where it was just, maybe one person was hurt or injured, or maybe not even a fatality. But that's a lot to think about. And it's a world that we live in. I had a teacher last year that shared with me a card that her student wrote her. This was an elementary school teacher. And the student wrote a card just thanking her for being a great teacher and how much she loved her. And it was such a pretty card. It was so cute because it's a little 4th grade girl, 5th grade girl. And in the card, she talked about how much she loved the subject that the teacher taught and how much she loved being in her class. And then she thanked her for being there when we went on the lockdown. And it just was a picture of the world that we live in. The little soft lockdown that we had a couple years ago, that Joe-K, do you remember that? It only lasted a little time, and it happened, I wanted to say, in like October. And this card was written in May at the end of school, and that was still in her head, that she was scared and her teacher was there for her. Okay? That's the world that we live in. They have to be afraid of stuff that are things that we might not used to have to be afraid of. So we're going to look again at these profiles real quick just so y'all can help. And as we're doing some of the exercises at the end, this will help you. This is our manager profile. Most profiles have a positive and a negative. These people are confident. I like managers as bosses because they're predictable. I know what to expect every single day when I walk into the office if I have a good manager. I work very well for these people. I used to like my teachers that were managers. Some people don't. I'll be honest with you, and a lot of innovators don't, so it's kind of surprising. But I knew if you told me what to do, and it was very clearly laid out, I was going to put my own spin on it. I may do something that will blow your hair back when in the middle of my presentation, just to mess with you a little bit, but I'm going to hit all the rubric, and I'm going to get my high A on my assignment, and I'm going to get a little laugh out of you in the process. That was kind of my way I would go about it. But I like these managers. I thought they were easy teachers because I knew what to expect and I knew what to do. They were organized, persistent, and the other part is decisive. This is another thing I like in leaders. I like them to know how to make a decision, okay? And maybe not a quick decision. Managers usually will drive a car around the block a time or two before they'll buy it, right? You want a manager to do that, a boss to do that. You don't want them to just make quick decisions, because if you make quick decisions, you're more likely to make a bad decision. So I like managers. But also the negative parts is sometimes they can be a nitpicker. They can pick people apart. Sometimes they can be complainers, especially if they're not in control, right? If they don't have control, they complain when any decisions made other than their own, right? So sometimes that can be tough. And they're usually not very risky. No risk tolerance is, in my opinion, a bad thing, because you have to sometimes take a risk. And it's something I ask students in therapy all the time. Are you willing to take a risk and talk about this? Because it is scary to talk about the stuff that you push into the back of your head your whole life. It's scary. So that's really tough. And sometimes I have to counsel my managers differently than I do my other students. So let's look at our innovators. These are confident, sometimes unpredictable. You may not know what they're going to do from one day to the next. I actually had a presentation when I was getting my master's degree, and it was supposed to be a 30-minute presentation. Everybody was so nervous about it. I never get nervous about presentations. I kind of enjoy them, so I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with it. About 7 minutes into the presentation that was supposed to be half an hour long, one of my slides just went, "The end, any questions?" And everybody in the room gasped. Like, oh my God, he just fell this course, because it was like a third of the grade was just this one presentation at the end of the year. And everybody in the room gasped. And then I hit the button again that said, "Just kidding, I bet y'all thought I was going to fail this class." That was a risk, right? That teacher could have been really mad at me for that. He honestly laughed or my presentation. So sometimes these kids are going to do some things outside the box or just weird or different or something you probably wouldn't try yourself, but they're going to be free thinking. And they need to be allowed to be creative, show that free thinking side. A lot of times they are very self-assured. They're good at solving problems. Okay? Negative. Anybody's ever seen my desk? I am disorganized. I'm working on it. Trying to be better at it, but I'm working on it. My secretary is now my cell phone. I'm trying to make sure I plan everything and keep up with myself. The biggest issue for innovators is sometimes, and even as leaders, they can be reckless. They can make reckless decisions. They have to be under control and decisive. And sometimes irresponsibility. And one thing you always see out of teenagers, if they're innovators, they will be rebellious at some point. Okay, then you have your loyalists. Again, these are some of the teachers' favorite students. They're very predictable. They're easy to manage. This just sounds like if you could have 30 loyalists in your classroom, your life would be so good, right? Easy to manage, predictable, precise, reliable, cautious, supportive, impulsive, loyal. Now, if that's all you had in your class, that actually probably would be nice. Some of the negatives are actually negatives because of how they interact with other profiles. Okay? So sometimes they have some fear. Sometimes they can be subservient. They kind of don't have a mind of their own. They're very gullible. Sometimes people can take advantage of them very easily. In some ways, we want to protect those babies. Does that make sense? I'm going to talk about some things that we can do to help with this particular profile as well. And we have our cautious innovators. They're not as fearful. They're more careful, cautious, right? They always evaluate before making an action. And a lot of times, these are great people to have on a team. As far as like teaching teams, okay? They're going to maybe think through it 10 different directions before they make a decision because they're going to be cautious. That's a good thing. But a lot of times, sometimes they get passed up or employers maybe don't like their working style because they want results, they want them right now. And this person, it may take them a little bit longer, but they're going to be more precise and get the job done nearly perfectly. That's why I actually think they're good accountants. Because they're going to not miss a beat. Accountants may make mistakes and have to go back and fix them. These people aren't going to make those mistakes. But they're also very creative, so they kind of have that innovator creativity part. And they're extremely open-minded. You think of a new idea, they're going to go, wow, that's great, and then they're going to think about it. How can we make it better? These people are very, very good to have on teams. And one of the things I said before, I wish, and if there's any principals in the room, when you're hiring, think about who's on your teams when you hire. Because think about what a team looks like with 5 managers on it. Right? Some of the best teams I've seen have an innovator, a cautious innovator, a manager, a loyalist, and those kind of very equally spread out. They're going to work very cohesively. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. And then we're going to talk about our random actors. And you'll notice both sides have only put negative stuff. There's not a whole lot of positives. But I'm going to talk about how we can change that. They can be dangerous. They are extremely fearful. And when I say fearful, I mean paranoid. We're not talking just fear. We're talking to extreme. A lot of times people think sometimes these kids are bipolar because their mood is just completely out of whack. And a lot of times they're not bipolar. They just have such a difficult time regulating their emotions. And it's not from biological circumstances of being bipolar. A lot of times they're very manipulative students. They're working angels. They will play staff against staff. They'll tell one teacher how much they like them. I just really don't like this other teacher because she's just terrible, right? And a lot of that's just driven by their insecurity. Okay, so we're looking at this again. So I'm going to ask you, if 75% of students are unconventional and they think unconventionally. Is there any flaws in the education system for these students? We have a conventional test built on conventional curriculum, right? That's from above us. That's from above our administration. That's from the state, right? So we have some challenges ahead of us because there's a reason why schools get targeted for shootings. That is actually part of it. And I wish I could get some people at the state legislature to listen to this, because I don't think there is a coincidence that kids are different and they're more unconventional, and we keep shoving conventional curriculum down their throat, and we're forced to, right? That's nothing against anybody here. That is what the state's mandating, right? And we're expecting them to enjoy that, okay? So we're gonna look at some innovative things that we can do with our conventional curriculum to make it a little bit better for the kids. Does that make sense? And some stuff is just a really conventional subject. Math, right? Math's a very conventional subject. How can we change some things and do some things differently in the classroom despite it doesn't matter what we teach or what subject, we can do some of the strategies that we're gonna learn in here today. All right, so now it's very difficult to profile just based off pictures. And in fact, I would tell you, if you're gonna start trying to profile for some of the stuff I'm gonna talk to you about as far as your students' behaviors, don't do it all with that. Get into school a little bit, give them some time, because sometimes kids will have their best behavior for that first 3 weeks, or I call it the honeymoon period, and then you're like, I heard so many bad things about this kid, they are so great, and then all hell breaks loose the next day. You're like, oh crap, that's what they were talking about. Oh, okay. So you want to wait, to observe them longer. And if I show you 10-second clips of people, you could actually do this, but don't you think it'll be way more accurate with 3-minute clips? Think about how much more accuracy you'll have with a whole month and a half to look before we start doing some of these things. So I'm going to show you this video, and then I'm going to open it up for you to vote what profile they fit. And we're looking at cautious innovator, random actor, manager, and loyalist. And you just let me know where they fit. seconds. Go ahead and get your votes in. All right. The two most commonly answered on this are cautious innovator and innovator. Those always are the two most commonly answered. Cautious innovator is what you all selected at 54%. Okay? Why did we select cautious innovator? Somebody that did. If anybody is wanting to talk about that, put themselves out there, be a risk taker, take a risk. Anybody? Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that he was willing to take more risks on the racetrack than he would on the highways where it would affect more people.
So he's talking about being more cautious, right? Okay. Anybody that said innovator, why did you say innovator? So what are the components of an innovator? They're unconventional and they're confident, right? Does anybody think he fit either one of those particular?
Very confident.
Confident? Yeah.
His behavior, like he doesn't, like he's very unconventional in how his behavior is throughout the entire interview.
Yeah.
Everything from playing with knots, as he's talking, to smoking, to just being very laid back.
Yeah. Very chill, right?
Yeah.
He's got his hat on, kind of like. And when do you think this was shot? What time period? 1950s, right? Okay. So think about our profiles and how different they were in the 1950s. Probably like 80% of people were conventional. That seemed very unconventional in comparison to the time period, right? But he is confident. What throws people off in this clip, and I use this on purpose because later on we're going to talk more about this. We have to look at the walk, not the talk. He talks about being cautious, right? But he's driving 100 and something mile an hour race car. Cautious people don't want to go 120 miles an hour on a racetrack, especially in the 1950s, right? So sometimes we get caught up in kids' talk. They can say the right thing, and they mask things, right? We have to look at behaviors and this behavioral profiling is about their walk. And if you look at, and we're going to look more at this in a little bit, and we're going to learn more about masking and some things like that. But let's go ahead and move forward with the next clip. Oh, he's an innovator. High confident. Literally, anybody know the movie he was in? Like, it actually is the best representation of him. It was called Rebel Without a Cause. Remember what we learned about innovators? They're rebellious. This literally was the kid on the side of the school catching smoke. Didn't care if he got caught. He did, oh great, I get some ISS, no big deal. Or back then, even better, he only got licks. I'll take a couple licks for that smoke anytime. All right, so we're going to watch another here. I think the audio may be working a little bit better than it could help. Thanks, Sierra.
Okay, we have Stuart with us today, who's been our primary computer tech, and of course has dabbled in a lot of different areas, and I think you'd like to talk about that right now.
I've been with this classroom for, I think, 22 years now. First met T&O in 1975, saw the picture and paper, and I knew that at that time, when I read about the information that they were presenting, and their position and who they were, and what they were offering, that was meant for me. I had suspected for some time that I was here for some type of task, not knowing what it was. But of course, after learning what T&O had to offer and the requirements that I was going to have to meet, I realized that I was part of the away team, that T&O go-to for everything, and that following the information that they brought was what I had to do. I could not do anything else.
Okay, y'all go ahead and vote on this individual, what his profile is, and then we'll discuss this. I gotta say, y'all are getting better at this. Maybe better than a lot of the groups I've worked with on this. So I gave that positive reinforcement, letting you guys know how brave you are. 10 seconds. %70 of you said loyalist. I'm bringing this back up so we can talk about it. To me, this is a good example of the negative side of the loyalist. Okay? And I'm thinking that you had that in consideration if you said loyalist, right? What do you see on that negative side that you were clued into on this student or this person? Anybody in particular? Subservient, right? Mindless, gullible, unquestioning. This is what I see in this particular person. He just read like an advertisement for this tea and dough guy who was a cult leader, the Heaven's Gate cult that all gave their lives because, remember how I kept saying the away team? Do you know what that meant? Does anybody remember this story? What the away team was going to do? The aliens were going to come and take them away after they killed themselves. Okay, so one of the things I want to tell you is this person got hooked up with the wrong person who took advantage of them. And one of the things in Quorum's research, before he started looking at profiles, he actually was paid to investigate cults. There was a Major League Baseball player that got hooked up with a cult, dropped out of playing baseball, and they had a lot of money, and the family did, so they started paying this person to investigate this cult. Well, then he kind of got intrigued by it. He started investigating all these cults, and he found that all the cult leaders had the same behavioral profile, and all the cult followers had the same behavioral profile. They're all loyalists. So they're finding easily manipulated people, and they're using them to their benefit. So later on, we're going to talk more about that and what we have to do in the classroom to help these kids as well. All right, next. This next one's really tough. So pay close attention.
I know him for so long. He wasn't that violent of a person ever.
Did you ever hear him talk about hating the jocks or hating black people or?
Everyone at our school talks about hating one group or another, but he only did jokingly.
What about these reports that they were picking out black people to deliver issues then?
No, they weren't racist. They hated everybody. As sick and divided as that may be, they didn't mean anything by it.
What do you think happened to your friend Dylan?
Just, he's a follower. He just got taken into Eric, because Eric helped him get attention. Dylan and Eric were never left by anyone.
And Dylan's parents are going through a terrible time.
Yeah, I've just been watching a lot of the news shows, and I know that they've been putting them off as kind of like these horrible parents, what did they do to make their kid turn out like this? And they didn't do anything. I mean, they were nice people. I mean, I've known Dylan since I was 5.
Dylan went to the prom on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Nothing unusual happened.
They had a great time. My friend doubled with Dylan and his date, and they had a great time. Nothing. You could not have seen this coming a million years away.
Are you going to be okay?
Probably not. I know I'm not going to be able to go back to Columbine. Ever. two of my really good friends shot and killed people there. And I have another couple friends that are on the missing list. I have a number of friends who are in hospitals right now in surgery. I'm never going to be able to go back there.
Okay, this one's, hold on, let me back up.
I know him for so long. He wasn't.
We're going to watch two videos of this one person different times to give you a little bit more, because this one's tough.
Eric and Dylan did get this Eric and Dylan did get this every day, and we all knew it, and we all talked about it, and we laughed about it because that's all you can do.
These images were shot 1 year before the massacre took place, and this time Dylan holds the camera. Eric has his back turned, and he's wearing a black t-shirt.
They're walking through the halls, and you can see a wall of jocks coming at them. You get the hell out of the way. It's their hall, their world. And Eric and Dylan didn't get out of the way. And so you see the jocks lay their elbows right into Eric and almost knock the camera out of his hand, and you don't hear them bitching. Because they're so used to it, they don't go, "What the hell was that?" They go, "Uh-huh," and they just move on because it's so commonplace. So shooting the kids at Columbine apparently is easier than fitting in at the school. That's the biggest lesson I learned about Columbine.
Okay, go ahead and profile this person. This one's tough. Seconds. Okay, I want to tell y'all one quick story, and then I'm going to ask you if you want to stick with the answer that you gave or if you'd like to change your answer. Okay? So, this person's name is Brooks Brown. He was a good friend of both the Columbine shooters. For a few months before they did the shooting, they were hanging out and they started telling Brooks, we have a plan to blow up the school. This was roughly 6 to 7 months before the shooting took place. So Brooks waited till they left, went to his parents, and said, they told me they're going to blow up the school, and I think they're serious. So the parents went with Brooks to the administrators on the campus, where it's a different time, this is 90s, right? Told the principal, these kids are planning on blowing up the school. Largely dismissed by the administrator. Today, that would not be the case, really anywhere, obviously, but at that time it was. They realized the administrators weren't doing anything, so they went to the police that evening and told the police. Dylan and Eric were still on probation, I believe, due to some theft and car vandalism at the time, so they got in a little bit more trouble. Okay? So after that's all said and done, they found out Brooks is the one that told them, their friend. So they're really pissed, made some threats. Brooks kind of stayed away from them a while, and things slowly got okay, where they were acquaintances again. So one of the things that the boys did on the Columbine shooting is they had practiced blowing up bombs in fields. And originally the plan was to blow up the school. They had enough explosives in there that if they went off, roughly 500 to 700 kids would have lost their lives that day. that they tested the bombs and then ordered the new materials to make them. One of the manufacturers of one of the parts had changed to save money. He had changed one of the parts from metal to plastic. And that was the key component that when metal hit metal, it ignited the bomb. And since that decision was made at random, hundreds of those bombs didn't go off, hundreds of kids lived that day, which if you don't believe in God, that is a good example of bloodshed. The second part to that is when they realized those bombs didn't go off, they grabbed the guns, which was their backup plan, and they started walking into school. And who did they see on the side of the school smoking cigarettes as they walked in? Brooks Brown. He told on them months before they were walking up to do their deed that they'd been planning. And their words to him were, Brooks, get out of here. We don't want to hurt you. We like you. Anybody want to change your vote on who Brooks is? What profile does he fit? Anybody? He was confident enough to go to his parents and the teachers, right? He's that kid who gets in trouble, right? He's your innovator. And in this particular clips, you're seeing him confident enough a couple days after the shooting to stand there with Tom Brokaw on national news and talk about it. He was fearful. He could not have had the guts to do that. Everybody associated with those boys wanted to hide their faces. And he was confident to do it. By the way, Tom Brokaw is one of the easiest people ever to profile. Just say he's a manager. All right, moving on. Another point to that innovator is, now I'm going to get back to that in a second. I'll come back to it. All right. Another video.
But I found that there's certain very fundamental things that apply to any size organization. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Now, more importantly, it applies to any type of organization. And that's very, very important to me because you see, every single person in this room is a leader. Every one of you is a leader. Of course, you are leaders in your business. That's why you're here. But many, many of you have children in school, and therefore you've chosen to become a leader in the school system in one way or another. Others of you are leaders in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and community activities of one sort or another. Many of you are leaders in your church, and every single one of you is a leader in your home. So what I'm going to talk about today applies not only to any size organization, but it applies to any type of organization. And what I'm talking about today, I want you to kind of think of all of your leadership roles that you play, and think how these principles apply to your leadership in whatever capacity it happens to be.
All right, go ahead and vote. Okay, 94% of you say manager. That is correct. I want to back up and talk about communication style. Is this person control or express?
Control.
Control. Are they assertive or non-assertive? Assertive. Do anybody know who this person is? Norman Schwarzkopf. He is a general that led our armies through the Desert Storm. Storm and Norman, that is correct. Backing up again, too, the point I want to make about how hard that Brooks Brown one was, if you had that kid in your class for a month and a half and you had seen that, and you'd seen that confidence that he has, you would have recognized that he was an innovator. Another point to this is we're not doing this right off the bat. You got to get to know your kids before you start using some of this stuff. And I can give you guidance as we go through, and if you have more questions throughout the year, and really questions about any behavioral kid or emotional kid, let me know. I'll come to a team meeting or I'll come meet with people in their conference. You just have to let me know and I'll come try to maybe some practical solutions for those kids. And Halliburton will help with that as well. So that's going to be a part of Thrive. Okay, one more here.
Well, go ahead. You want to go? Okay. It's my time. Go ahead, Mr. Lyman.
Raymond Lyman. I want to talk about the snowstorm. I have some problems on Phelps Street. The problem because of the snow was because of the stop signs. They're blocked on the down by the Avenue restaurant. The snow blocked the signs, the stop signs, and then up by on the front of Phelps Street by my house, by the printer. You know where I'm talking about. That stop sign too was blocked by snow. The DPW never came down on our street, and we're paying taxes, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. And I'm not going to pay any taxes until that's done. And that's one thing. Number two is the DPW signed their contract and they got a $1,500 bonus. And my question is, why wasn't the snow not plowed? Not only my street, but all these other courts now. And each one of these DPW workers got $1,500 signed on contract. And each one of them, but the firemen and police and clerical workers never got their contracts signed. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Now, this wasn't the blizzard of '93. This was just a small snowstorm. And yet, in the Scranton Times on 22 and 28, George Parker and Chris Doherty said all the roads were passable. It's a crying shame. And yet, I'm asking tonight, I want a federal investigation done by the federal attorney general for an investigation done. And I want the state to investigate why the incompetence, this mayor, this city council, and his cabinet, why this wasn't done. Since the state is doing it with PennDOT, I want heads to roll. We had a medical emergency happen on my street that Tuesday. A woman had an ambulance was stuck in the road. 5 men pushed the ambulance to get it off the ice. And I think it's ridiculous. When we had cars that were trapped down the road, and now a plow came, a printer had to use his plow to plow the street for us on the Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman.
And I think it's kind of ridiculous.
Your time is up, Mr. Lyman. No, we have a lot of people here and I have to stick to the rules.
Okay,
thank you.
All right, go ahead and vote. Okay, let's talk about Mr. Lyman. It was very difficult to search for this guy. I probably spent 8 hours looking for the perfect person for this training. And when I found Ray, I decided They tape every meeting, and he shows up at every meeting and has his time to let them know what needs to happen in that town. The best part about this, for this illustration, was I had months and months and months of video of this guy. And he actually falls into the category of random actor profile. Okay? Now, presently at this moment in the Ray Lyman video series that I found on YouTube, he actually was on a show called Tosh.0 at one point. Anybody's familiar with that show? Ray was on it. And as we move forward, he doesn't have an extreme fear yet, right? In fact, a lot of times kids like this aren't taken that seriously. Does anyone seem scared of this guy just based off what he said? Not really, right? One of the things that he said that was actually showing more signs of like paranoia is wanting what done? Federal investigation done on why his street was not plowed. Okay? Alright, so for those of you that did not say random actor, we're going to see a longer clip of Ray where I've pieced together months of his interactions. And the biggest thing we have to learn from this city council is how they're treating him. And you're going to see the way they treat him during this process makes it way more likely that he's going to get disgruntled, frustrated, and then by the end of the series, he's going to physically look different. He's going to be much more agitated and frustrated, and I think he's just on the verge of coming up there and doing something about it. And all of it is stemming from how the adults or how these city council people are treating him. So let's watch the second clip. And listen all the way to the end, because one of the council people mentioned something at the very end that's very pertinent. So wait till the video all the way ends.
Wasn't it?
Here we go.
Wasn't it from 2001 to 2007 that you want all financial records from the Doherty office and all the departments, yes or no?
Yes and no. Actually, I said from January 2002
Oh, 2002.
to date. Mm-hmm.
And isn't it true that since Finucci wasn't here, they all voted, all four of us voted, and it was passed. So why are you guys voting now? And because Eagle Manure doesn't want to do his job.
Excuse me, that's out of order. That is out of order.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Manure does what council requests of him.
But you did pass it, Mrs. Catella.
It was passed in a motion which was not the legal way to pass it. We had to do it with the resolution.
But you four did vote, and Emil and Kay said yes, and because I have the tape, and it was passed. And since Finucci wasn't here, and you guys said that you were going to do it, because I tape every meeting, and it was passed, and it should have went through.
Well, now it spells out exactly what we're looking for.
Well,
These resolutions.
So it's not his fault, it's Chris Doherty, he should have did it weeks ago. It should have been passed weeks ago, so it's still his fault, in my opinion. So it might be my opinion and 67,000 people's opinions. Mr. Manure should resign, in my opinion.
Oh, please, Mr. Lyman. He is not a public official.
Well,
please refrain from those comments.
You know what, Mr. Lyman? Don't hold your breath.
Raymond Lyman. Mrs. Catelli, 2 weeks ago, my friend Max and I wrote 2 letters, 5-page letters, one to the Federal Attorney General and one to the ACLU about this mayor and the city council, 4 of the city council members, violation of civil rights. Not Mrs. Evans, but the other 4. He took our rights away, with this ridiculous 4 minutes, fighting with people, not giving us any answers, and telling people you're out of order. Ridiculous. I'm waiting for a response from the Federal Attorney General and the ACLU. And once I get that, I'm gonna find out what to do with the Federal Attorney General. And then I'm gonna talk to my lawyer about possible. Every time I come up here, you always say I'm out of order. Well, I'm gonna think about suing the city about that. Violation of my civil rights. Because I think it's kind of ridiculous. I want to ask a few questions. Mrs. Catelli, you said a couple of weeks ago, now I don't want you screaming and hollering at me, but I tape every meeting since the city council started. But you said that your husband wasn't running for office. Oh, but in the newspaper.
Michael, you can call my husband and ask him, okay?
Oh, I talked to your husband.
Yeah, we'll call him and ask him. I have nothing
Your
to do
husband
with
said
his
if I
decision.
wrote, okay, wait, Mrs. Catelli. If I wrote on his petition that my street could have got plowed.
You're a liar.
I'm not a liar.
Your husband doesn't even know you.
He didn't know who I
Let me
was.
ask you.
He did not know who I was, Mrs. Catelli.
Please.
Once he knew on my name, he didn't want my name on his petition.
Oh.
You calling me a liar? Well, you can call me a liar, what you want. Raymond Lyman. Remember a couple of weeks ago, I said that I had a letter from the Federal Attorney General's office and the ACLU, and you guys laughed at me? And now I see in today's paper, the ACLU was in a paper about Judy Catelli and Ava Menor. Oh, it's a surprise that Mr. Menor and Ms. Catelli's not here. Who's the liar now? Who's the liar now, Mrs. Finucci?
Okay, Ray, let's.
Hey, I have a right to speak.
What?
You can't stop me.
Raymond, calm
And
down.
I have a question. Let me speak. Where does it say in the Constitution that people can only speak for 5 minutes? Ask your,
It's not in,
lawyer.
it's not in the Constitution.
No, in the Constitution you can speak as long as you want. And this rules of council does not exist. I can speak as long as I want.
Raymond.
The Constitution outrights any law in the land.
Raymond, please.
Federal Attorney General, Mr. Johnson told me, and
The Federal Attorney General?
that's what the letter told me.
Oh, I thought Steve told you.
No, well, in the letter.
Oh, okay.
Because Mr. Gonzalez is the Federal Attorney General.
Okay.
And in the letter it said, the Constitution outrights the law of the land. And I will get a copy from the library. And I will show our hackable.
Oh, no. Raymond, you cannot say that.
Hey, I'll say what I
No,
want.
you can't.
It's freedom of speech.
You can't call him that. It's not right, Raymond. Come
I'll
on.
say what I want. He's not here.
Yeah, and that's true. He's not here to defend himself. Don't call him names.
But
Raymond.
you said every time I come here I'm out of order and no one else. And I have a right to say what I want.
I never said you were out of order. I said.
Oh, but the Queen Mother did.
Oh, you can't say that. You can't say those names about people.
And the
Please.
Constitution says I can say what I want.
It does not, Raymond.
And the rules of council does not exist.
Raymond,
The
Raymond,
Constitution
hold on for one
is
second.
freedom of speech.
Hold on for 1 second. We adopt rules of council every 2 years.
I don't care about the rules of
You
council.
have to care because they're the rules. You gotta go by the
The
rules.
Constitution outranks rules of city council.
All right, I'm not gonna argue with you, Raymond. Go ahead, continue.
Because the Federal Attorney General told me in the letter. And now you have the ACLU going after you. And he should tell you, because you'll be sitting in jail.
You won't be sitting in jail.
Well, when you have the Federal Attorney General, they had 2 guys in suits coming around now. And there was one of them here that they taken photos, not just the ACLU.
Raymond, how about changing the subject, all right? You get confrontational. We don't want that.
Speech. And it outranks that 5 minutes. I can speak as long as I want.
You cannot speak as long as you want.
Said to me the last time I was here, when she was mayor, she could pave the road. Well, I thought that was an insult to me. When all her friends got their streets paved, hey, I'm a taxpayer. I like my street paved.
I'd like mine paved too.
Well, you have a business. You could pave your sidewalk and your street. You have a business. You could do it yourself. Not ask Mr. Konchorski and make my taxpayers pay for it. My taxes. I like to have my street paved. Not with year after year after year. And it's never done. There's sidewalks on Capellas Avenue all the way down to the rebar. And disabled people in wheelchairs like this poor old lady, they have to go on the road. In my neighborhood, they don't deserve to go on the road. They can go on the sidewalk, but they can't. Every year they do that. We deserve to be treated like human beings, not like animals. And every time I come up here, I talk to the wall. I don't deserve that. I deserve to be treated like a human being. Not like the Queen Mother up there treating me.
Raymond, I'm not going to lie. The next time you say that, you're going to be out of order. You can't be calling people names. Now that's it.
She
That's
treats me
it.
like an animal.
She's not even here. Please.
Every time when she's here, she hollers at me like
You speak to her when she's here.
When I was here the last time when we were being searched, the junior consul got trouble because they said, as I quote, they were a member of government and we were
Your time is up, Raymond. You got to sit down.
being searched.
All right, your time's up, Raymond.
Well, the 5 minutes doesn't matter.
You have to, Raymond, you have to sit down.
Well, maybe I should talk to Mr. Johnson.
Well, you talk to him. For right now, you got to
this again.
For right now, you got to step down, Raymond. Your time's up.
I'll talk to the ACLU again.
Yes.
And let's see
Raymond.
when they come after you. And
Raymond, your time's up, buddy. Sit down. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Listen
No
all the way to
one.
the end.
Come on. Okay. If there's no one else, motion to adjourn? Second. Oh, thank you. We're adjourned.
So at the very end, he says, proof that I'm a failure as a social studies teacher. This was one of Ray's teachers when he was in school. So there's so many pieces to this that I want to kind of walk through. At the very beginning, he's asking the lady with the blonde hair, Miss Evans, asking her a question. How did Miss Evans respond to him? No, what was it? She respected him. She answered. She said yes and no. It was 2002, but she answered his question, right? With respect, right? Did you notice later on when he started getting a little fired up, he was talking about the four of you? Well, not you, Miss Evans. It's the rest of you. If he comes up there with the gun, guess who he's not targeting? Miss Evans, right? So as the video goes on, he gets more and more agitated, and he keeps talking about being treated like an animal, right? And he's talking to the wall, and they kind of made the comment about, well, I'm getting searched, right? These other people are getting to come through and not be searched, right? So that almost makes you wonder if he is thinking about bringing something. Why is he worried about being searched, right? Do you think the city council could have handled this differently, that he wouldn't have got more pronounced with his disgruntled feelings about the city council, his disgruntled feelings about living in this town? And it's just as simple as letting him be heard and listening. Honestly, if I'm on that city council, I say, Ray, I get it. It's frustrating because sometimes we want the things that we want, and sometimes there's longer processes. And I just let him know I'm listening, I'm hearing. I'm trying to let him know his voice is heard. I want him to feel comfortable living in the town. The last thing we want to do is make that situation worse. Because when you're watching that, your first video, did you not see a sweet soul in that video? Many of you have seen these sweet human beings like Ray, and you've seen them in your classroom. And it's always shocking years later when you find out they're the juvenile justice or the criminal justice as adults, right? And it's sad because you remember that sweet child that you taught. But they can get pushed, more and more frustrated, more and more disgruntled, and then they just need a cause and triggering event, which going to talk about more in just a second. Oh. If you need them, should we do a 10-minute break? Let's do a 10-minute break and we'll come back and we'll